start talking and it just gets the.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's recording, so you're
Okay.
good.
We're good?
All right.
And you can hear
Thank
us, the
you.
noise levels, all the good.
Sweet. Well,
Here we go.
here we go. I wasn't expecting to have both of you here, and this is a very pleasant surprise actually
Thank
because
you.
it's a different dynamic than I usually have.
So you don't usually have couples on?
I just haven't. I just haven't yet.
So we're the first one.
Yes, the first ones.
Perfect.
The first ones that, yeah. I mean, I've wanted to have, both of you, but Scott
No,
for
that's
sure since I started my podcast, because I heard you speak at Lions Den Live and heard your story and all that, and I was like, man, that's an awesome story.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, crazy. There's a lot to unpack there, and I hope we
Yeah.
can get through, the majority of it.
We'll roll
So-
wherever you want to go, bud.
So obviously this is the Blue Collar Future podcast.
Okay.
Not really gonna stick to blue collar stuff, but like you started working and you were in pools, but you were a lineman before. Is that
Yeah.
Did I
so
say
went
that right?
I went to Southern California Edison. That was when we lived in California, and that's where my dad did. I mean, just wanted to follow the dad's footsteps. Doing what I guess what you've all grown up with.
Yeah.
And the only problem is I don't like heights. So when you climb a 100-foot, 200-foot tower, 100-foot pole, and you're up there, it doesn't feel real well.
No, I've been
Problematic.
watching some videos from a guy that does that, and he's like running across these cranes and
Oh, they're
videoing
stupid.
it. I'm like, oh my
Oh yeah,
gosh.
there's some guys that are just like monkeys.
Yeah.
Man. They can just go.
Yeah. So that was something. It was almost like what I fell into, and then you get trapped in the money. I mean, the money was great. I was probably 19, 20 years old, making $22 an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm an old
In the
man
80s.
in the 80s,
Yeah.
so that was good. 100%.
$22 an hour was big money.
Yeah, 100% medical, dental, everything was going, and we just started a family. So, and then
Yeah, literally, it was 100%.
yeah, it was crazy.
Crazy.
Well, that's something I've been noticing is a lot of people are talking about lately. It's not the money that makes you happy,
true.
and
Boy.
that's what we're gonna get into
Perfect.
here. And I know too many people chase the money. Chase the money is like their purpose, and always need that next job, that next high-paying job, or they get so set in their lifestyle in a job that they don't like and they don't have a purpose in, and it's like, where do you go from there? You know
Yeah, I
what
think that through our life, you always want to. I hate the cliche stuff, leveling up and all this other crap. But each time you make a move, it's always you want to be better than where you're at now. If you have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, you want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. If you have that, and then you want a 5-bedroom house, it's always the step up. And legitimately, for 25, 30 years, that's what we did. We just kept going until we got to the country clubhouse, and then Mike Tyson's our neighbor. We're playing golf with all the football players, poker players. We're playing all this fun stuff, and then you get to a point where, you have something happen, and you kind of lose track of your family, and you're chasing the money, and then you all of a sudden wake up and you have an addicted child. You got no time for your wife. You got no time for the kids. You've got this beautiful 5,000 square foot house, golfing 3 days a week, but you don't know who you are. And that's exactly what we came into. I mean, myself, I'm not going to talk for Ann, but we're as a partnership, that's what we came into, and like legitimately just had the gun and said, I'm done. This is stupid. I can't do this anymore. I just can't. I think it comes, for me, it was, you come from a divorced family, coming from, welfare and, living on government cheese and stuff. And this is not a slam on any of that. It was a great, for my family, my mom to go through that. But I never wanted to go back there. Then you think that you're at the pinnacle. You're doing all this fun stuff. You're making boatloads of money, the cars you want to drive, the boat you have everything. And then it just comes down to you have a crisis in your family, and you're like, holy crap, now what do I do? And then I've said it, and I've told her. And she didn't. I think I told her just a few years ago and she didn't even know it when we were in the house. Like I legitimately had a gun in my studio, so I started painting. And my son came in, and he was high as a kite, and he was getting ready to go out. And I was just like, I can't put this face on anymore. I just can't do this anymore. I'm like, this is nonsense. I don't want to live like this anymore. And the only thing, and we lived in a house that was kind of like it was set up like an H. So in my master bedroom, I had an art studio that I was doing in. And we looked across the patio, and then I looked into the kitchen and our family room that was over there. And I just sat there, and I'm like, I'm done. And I looked across out this window into our kitchen, and I saw my daughters laughing and my wife laughing. And I'm like, man, I can't have them clean my brains off of this wall, you know. And that's the only thing that saved me is my wife and my daughters laughing in the kitchen. I'm like, okay, life can be good. And then from then on, it's just like, all this crap it just is what it is. It's gonna burn. It's
just stuff.
It's just stuff. And then it gets to be what happens is it becomes a burden. If you look at a lot of people, like some of the, I'm not gonna say friends, but acquaintances and people that we know and stuff, and you look at their lifestyle and you look at all the stuff that they have, their relationship sucks. Yeah. Their kids hate them. They keep buying extra things just to make it look good on Instagram and social media, and they're the best. They're the best dad. They're the best husband. The more they talk about the relationship, the shittier the relationship is. Excuse my language, but it is. Yeah. It's terrible. It's just stepping back and away from it. It's just like I'm glad that I'm not there. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah, you find yourself in this situation where you're successful, right? And so you think that part of your success should be having all these toys and all this stuff. And then it really very quickly becomes you're overwhelmed with your own junk. You know what I mean? You have too much stuff. We don't need all these things. Yeah. And at the end of the day, your bank account, the things that you've accumulated, your house, it doesn't mean anything. It's where's your family at? Is your husband happy? Are your children happy? Is everybody healthy? What's going on? Are we communicating? Yeah. You know, and so it's easy to get lost in that. And it's really interesting, particularly in the construction space, because I was in construction for 17 years.
This is construction. Yeah, so we were both in construction. That's what,
It's people start to make some money, right? Yeah. And then they start to accumulate an RV or a boat or motorcycle. You know, they start to do all this stuff. And
the rental houses, everything.
And I honestly think that it's kind of a trap. Yeah. Because the more stuff we own, the more things that we're bogged down by. And then when we make choices, it starts to own you after a while.
I've noticed that lately because there's such a push towards production, and there's such a push towards like showing everybody and making it seem like you're successful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not what makes you happy, and you start to lose track of your purpose. And I would argue that the purpose can be there whatever you do, no matter how much money you make, and you can be happy doing anything. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've noticed. And there's so many people that like don't think that like construction jobs or like blue collar jobs are, good or like, but it's not the money that matters, because everybody chases the money, want to go to school to be a doctor because make a bunch of money. Right. Mm-hmm. But then you're tied down by hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Yep. And then everybody pushes you to go get a house, mm-hmm. and you get hundreds of thousands of dollars in a mortgage, mm-hmm. right? And you're tied to this system now, and you don't have a purpose. You're not happy. You're not fulfilled, but you're making money.
Yeah, but you're trapped. You're trapped by your stuff.
We kind of did the fast track from talking about being a lineman and then going into being the country clubhouse. Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff in there that's kind of that we kind of overlooked. But I think what it was is I myself constantly, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 2, keep going up, moving to the country club, doing all this other stuff. There's a point in your life when you have to understand that, being happy is far more important. And I'm sorry if that's an unpopular thing, and I could really give a crap about it, because the simple thing is I've been there, and we've had millions and millions and millions of dollars. We've lost millions and millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. But the kick on it is I wake up next to my buddy, mm-hmm. and I have a good time, and we're fine. But my thing was that, I'm sorry. What I was going to say is, like, you have to come to a point in your mental psyche, like, if this isn't fulfilling me or making me happy, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And I'm not talking about like your marriage or anything like that. That I'm talking about what you do for a living. What your T-shirt says on your company, whatever the company T-shirt that you work for, or whoever pays your bill, or if you're self-employed, if you're not happy with that, I was legitimately waking up in the morning dreading going to work when I was a lineman, and I was an apprentice lineman. I was not a lineman; I was apprentice going through the apprenticeship. I would wake up just dreading going to work, and we'd been married. We're married, and she goes, "Why don't you just find something that's better?" And I'm like, there's a certain point when you in your life where you just don't understand that you can change. People think that once you start something, you can't. My dad's been a lineman forever, so I got to follow in his footsteps. My family's been in landscaping forever. I have to follow in that. No, it's like, no, I broke the mold on all of that with my family. When I told my family that I'm quitting a literally $100,000 a year job, full benefits, with a wife and 2 kids, and they said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to be self-employed." Oh my gosh, nobody in my family was ever self-employed. Yeah. It's
not just our family, our whole friend. Everybody thought we lost our minds.
My whole family thought we were just like batshit crazy. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, well, these are just stories. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Like, I think I heard, I don't remember who it was. I was at an event, and you heard that because I was talking about at that speaking event I was at. I heard somebody speak about stories that we tell from our circumstances. So, you come from a divorced family. Your stories you tell yourself about how marriage works are not the way it actually goes. And that follows you all the way through your marriage, ends up leading you to divorce because you don't know what's right, what's wrong, what works, what doesn't work. Same thing with being self-employed or not. You have a whole family that's never been self-employed. You're crazy.
Yeah. How are you gonna support a family of 3? And here's the thing too: is we come from divorced families. We're the 13th marriage in our family
between our parents.
My mom and dad. My dad's been married 3 times. My mom's been married 3 times. Her dad 4 and her mom 3. Twice. Excuse me. So we're 13. So we've been married 37 years, and we're the second longest marriage in our thing. So understand, we came from that point where it's like we have all these outside influences of mom that's a single mom that I grew up with, whereas my dad was a lineman and he's making bucks, driving Cadillacs, living in his own house. I'm like, well, I'd much rather be doing that than doing this. Not a bag on my mom or anything else. I mean, she was doing what she could. So I was just like, you know what? I can't live. I don't want to live for 40 years and get a golden handshake when I'm 65 at a company that I never really liked doing anything for them. So I by circumstance, I found a guy that was doing swimming pools. I was coaching baseball with my kids and everything, and he was always there. He's never missed a practice, never missed anything. I'm like, man, that'd be so good to be that dad that never misses anything. And so I went to work for him. I took 2 weeks off at my job at the Southern California Edison. I went to work with him for 2 weeks just to see if I liked it, and I just fell in love with it. And it was cleaning swimming pools. That's what I started with doing. Cleaning swimming pools. And then I started finding out how much he was making. I'm like, holy crap. Like,
it's a great business.
This guy, he doesn't work nights. He doesn't work weekends. He doesn't get called in on a storm. Yeah. He doesn't do any of this stuff. And he's making more money than I am. And he's at baseball practice and football practice. And
he's happy and
he's happy. He's wearing shorts. He's got a suntan. He's got his glasses on. I'm like, what are you smoking, dude? Like, I got to figure this out. Yeah. I got to figure your life out because I want it, you know? And that's the thing, too. It's like you have to push yourself outside your comfort zone. I'm constantly, like, my anxiety on a lot of things that I do just because I don't feel comfortable doing it, but you just have to step into it. Step into the unknown. And I think, the benefit that we both have is, like, we have a soft place to land. Like, if I fail, I know that she's going to be behind me 100%. Yeah. If she fails, I'm there. Like, there's really no failing. It's just a matter on how much money do you want to lose, and how long do you want to deal with this?
Yeah, but I think when we make these changes, we step out together.
Oh, yeah. We talk
about it. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing too. It's when I wanted to do my swimming pool business so I started with service. We built pools, repaired, did all kinds of crazy stuff, and then we'll tell you about her story in a minute. But there's a certain point. I think there's certain seasons in life, like the job that I absolutely loved because I had the opportunity to be with my kids when there's stuff and all the other stuff. There came a point where it's like, I just don't like this anymore. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's the point in your life, I think, in any trade or any job that you have. It's like, there's the fork in the road. What are you going to do? Are you going to sit back and relax and just say, well, I know how to do this. I don't really like to, but I'm making great money, but let's just keep it going. It's like, I was like, this was 16 years ago. Yeah. I'm 58 years old. So at 42, I was like, I want to change. Yeah. But I didn't know how to. So it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. She was getting ready to go to work. And I hadn't thought about it, hadn't done anything. But I woke up and it was God put on my heart. It's like, why don't you sell half your business and figure something else out? I'm like,
Yeah.
holy mackerel. So 4:15 in the morning, she's getting ready to go to work. And I told her, I said, hey, babe, I said, I'm thinking about, what do you think if I sell half my company? And she's like, what? And she goes, if you're going to do that, just sell the whole thing and get out of it. I mean, so this is like a partner that's like going, like, she was pushing me. Like, don't go halfway, let's go all in. So something that I love to do for 20 some years, made a boatload of money, acquired all the things that now I'm starting to get trapped into, all this stuff was like, holy crumb. Let's figure something else out. What do you want to do? Yeah. So, and that's, I mean, and, going to her job is she was in construction. So we know that business, together. It's like I did swimming pools, she did construction landscaping. And, she came, same thing. She came home one day and said, what do you think about starting up a landscaping company? Because, and there was a story behind that. And I'm like, the hell do you know about landscaping? I'm like,
I didn't know one thing about landscaping when I started the company.
So if we're rambling too much, just interrupt. So the kick on it was she's like, well, I think I want to, and again, there's a long story to it. I'll really sum it up. She goes, I need $1,000 loan, to start this thing up. I said, all right. I go, but you're paying me back. So I'm like, I'll loan you $1,000. Like this, and this sounds so stupid, but this is business, people. Like legitimately, business is business. Don't care if it's with your family. You write out a contract and you do this stuff. Otherwise, it's done. And we have that. It's like we treat our marriage like a business, which sounds so cold, but after 37 years, we're having pretty a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's working.
So I gave her $1,000 loan, and over 17 years, I mean, when she sold it, if you accumulate over the time, she probably just under $50 million over 17 years of her business. Wow. So it was a good ROI on me, on my investment.
But here's the thing on that, right? Yeah. We're talking about how we push ourselves to succeed and do all these things. By the end of 17 years of doing this, I was about ready to just drop dead. Yeah. I was so stressed out.
And that's where you have to make the choice when you just switch.
I had so many employees. My payroll was so fat that I would pay them every other Friday. By Friday at 12:01, I'm freaking out for the payroll 2 weeks from now. And my payroll would be anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 every 2 weeks. And if we were throwing overtime on that, it was just like a nightmare. Yeah. And we were doing a lot of commercial jobs at that point, and they're slow to pay. Yeah. And really. So I was just constantly on edge.
But then she comes back, and I actually fired her from her company because she was getting sick and she was having some medical problems. And I said, all I'm doing now is just preparing this business to sell. Yeah. I mean, I've sold companies, I've sold businesses before, so that's what we did. We positioned it to sell. This was right before COVID hit, and I sold it to a gentleman, and I was carrying paper on it. I was, holding the loan, and about 2 months after COVID hit, he shut the business down and walked with about $2 million that he owed us, and the business was no longer. Yeah, it was gone. And so this was after we had sold our house and moved to Utah. Yeah. So we again, once we decide to do something, we just go all in. Like if we're gonna sell, we're gonna do it. We're come hell or high water, we'll figure it out.
And it was unfortunate that he ran it into the ground. But our ultimate goal, it would have been nice. It would have been tremendously nice to have that money. Yeah. But our ultimate goal was to be free of the business. Yeah. And so that was achieved, and I think I was in peace with it.
I mean, what it's really sounding to me like is you guys were both working together and on board, but you talk about your core four, your passion, your passion is like one of your cornerstones of your core four. I mean, obviously looking at core four, every single area needs to be.
It's a four-legged stool.
It is. And most people focus so much on their business, they get to that point and they don't have anything to fall back on. Right. So, you have these scenarios where you're like, man, I just hate this. But you go and say to your wife, what if I sell and go do something else? She's like, you're crazy. Like,
That's what a lot of people happen. That's what a lot happens,
Which is really unfortunate because
when you were saying, I'm just going to
Yeah.
go this, like when you're saying, it's like it comes down to, it's like, yes, we lost $2 million in that transaction, but the kick on that is we got freedom.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no price on freedom. And again, with medical issues that we've gone through this recently and everything else, it's like, I don't really care. I want the time.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's like, time is, it's so funny because at our age and all the stuff that we've done, and I don't want to make it sound like we're old people and everything. We're young. We do all the fun stuff. But watching our friends and some of the people that are up and coming and stuff, it's like if the one thing I can instill is just like legitimately be happy at what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because stress will kill you. Your
debt will kill you.
Debt will kill you. Trying to keep up with the person that has the new Lamborghini is going to kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm just saying,
I
like
think,
that.
Can I interject for a second? I think one of the, when we first started our own businesses, we're super ambitious, right?
Yes.
I want to be the biggest landscape company in town. I was not by far the biggest landscaping
But
company
everyone
in Las
knew who
Vegas.
she was.
Yeah.
Well, because I was a female in a male world. But there's a tipping point where as you're building your business can either outgrow you or get too big. And by that, I mean that, so when I'm doing all this commercial work, right, it creates a huge cash flow issue.
Yeah.
And I don't have backup. Like I have got to still make payroll. I still have to pay vendors. I still have all these things. And so it's kind of finding that sweet spot where it's not too big, it's not too small. Yeah. And by being too big, I mean, when you get into these bigger jobs and these bigger numbers, there's bigger mistakes or bigger things that can happen. Yeah. And if you don't have a safety net of some kind, like some of the bigger contractors would have gap loans that they could get through banks and stuff that they had established relationships with. I wasn't that big yet. So on commercial jobs where I haven't even been paid yet, I'm still funding all that payroll, all those things. And so there's a sweet spot where if you can find your sweet spot where you're making a good profit and the stress isn't too much of a toll on you, that's your sweet spot.
The next spot.
It's not always about getting bigger. It's about finding the perfect balance.
So it's almost $4 million at the last year that she was doing it. So there's that in that scenario for her, like she now started to have to hire like internal bosses, and there was a big pull for that and draw for that, because now you have, instead of you have a $70,000 payroll, now you have a $150,000 payroll.
Yeah.
And so. But is the juice worth the squeeze? I mean, there's a balancing point, especially in pools or landscaping and roofing and whatever you do. Just because you double your customer base doesn't mean that you double your income.
It doesn't mean you doubled your profit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Profit is always your goal, right?
Yeah.
But when we get so hampered down by all these large jobs, all these large things, these things that we supposedly wanted, I feel sometimes we're not going into it with full knowledge of how it's going to go down.
Yeah.
And then it can create a tremendous amount of stress because,
Well, and it can become something that takes away your freedom even more so than feeling tied to a steady 9-to-5 job. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people preach going into a business as like your freedom, ultimate freedom, make like more money. And it's like,
that's the biggest,
I
biggest
kind of
lie.
Wonder, it is kind of a lie, right?
Yeah.
It can be very deceptive. So when you have your own business and you're running all these employees and you're doing all these things and you're managing all these clients, you don't leave at the end of the day, go home and forget about work. Yeah. You're breathing it, eating it, sleeping it. It's 24/7 in your mind.
Did you say breeding it?
Breathing.
You said breed.
Well, I did breed it. It grew.
It grew.
So, and so I'm not against being self-employed, but you're right. A lot of these coaches and stuff are constantly telling us, if you're not working for yourself, you're not doing it. And I disagree with that because you can work a 9-to-5, make a tremendous living, have a healthy career.
As long as you're happy.
Yeah. And then you can leave it and not worry about it when you go home.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And
it's a big toll.
Yeah, it's a huge toll. And not everybody is built for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they never tell you is it usually takes a couple years to establish a company before you see any profit. So if you're the sole support of your family and someone's pushing you out there to become an entrepreneur, you need to be eyes wide open that this is you're going to struggle.
So here's what we get. I've got my company that's been going for 20 years now. She wants to start her company. So it's like, all right, that's cool, no problem. Mm-hmm. So you have to feed the beast. You know what I mean? And so if she's not making, she didn't pull a check. She legitimately didn't pull a paycheck for probably 4 years. The first 4 years, like pulling a paycheck.
So I was fortunate that my husband had a thriving business.
So my
as I was trying to establish my business.
Because now we're trying to do it. Because
it was supporting the owner, the other business, that's for sure.
Exactly. Supporting the owner, making sure that this is going. So, be careful what you wish for. It's like I had a great business that was very profitable, that making tremendous money. And
You would sell off parts of it every year because
I
would outgrew them.
Because it outgrew. So now we're funding this business, and again, I didn't fund it. I did fund it, but it was one of those things where we didn't show money coming in for at least 4 years that we saw. Yeah. And then we got to a point where it grew again, and then you're back to not making any money. So it's like, out of the 17 years, we made maybe 8 years that we made good money in her business. 9 years, maybe. I mean, so the front end we didn't make any, and the back end we didn't make any because we were growing to go and sell it. Yeah. So that's just the business.
There's steps where you with some people working under you running a couple jobs can be profitable. You get up one step and have 2 different crews of people underneath you running jobs, and then it's more responsibility to manage them while they're doing all of this work. And then it's, less money for you because you're paying them. And it's like you get to a point where maybe you start making money, and then all of a sudden you need to grow and get more people. You need to grow.
Well, that's what that's the only thing that I think that I did very well with my pool business is, like, I really knew my numbers. Like, I knew that if I doubled my customer base, it wasn't going to double my income, double my profit. Like you say. Yep. So I was running a very skeleton crew, and then I would subcontract a lot of stuff out because I would make just as much money subcontracting that stuff out as if I were to carry the licensing on stuff. Yeah, it's and if this is a contractor podcast, I mean, blue collar, it's like you understand that. Like, there is a certain point. So I had a sweet spot where, like, I knew I could make just at $1 million or just under $1 million every year just by doing what I was doing. Now, to get to 1.5 or 2 million, it was going to take away my freedom. Legitimately take away my freedom, where I was golfing 3 days a week, having fun, never missing a school sport, never missing being able to go out to lunch with my wife whenever I wanted to. And I'm like, well, I really don't want to, it's not worth $1 million for me to give up all that stuff. And that sounds really kind of arrogant and cocky, but.
Well, it takes a lot to get to that point because, like we've talked about already, a lot of people chase that money so much that they don't see that drawback of not missing their family activities. They're just like, oh, that's another $1 million.
If I get that money, then I can take my kids on that trip.
Then we can go on vacation.
Then we go on vacation. It's like, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
No,
not at all.
No, So my dad runs a residential concrete flat work company, and I've been working for him for a long time. And he was working for his uncles, and they did commercial, and he did that for probably 10 or 15 years. And I've seen his growth as being self-employed, and through all of the downturns. And it wasn't ever something I wanted to do because I could see it's not like this. It's not like this super, you have all of this time. It's not cut and dry. Like, you make a bunch of money, but you got all this free time because you just have to put in all this money. But he's always told me, like, we've talked about going to split up to different crews and running different jobs. And we do sometimes split up where I'm running other things, but you start to get too many people, and it's like that headache, headache of all of the extra people not knowing where they are. I think my dad's uncles were one of the biggest flat work companies in Utah when they were partnered, and they had multiple crews, but it was like some guys just wouldn't show up.
Right.
And then back then it's hard to track that.
There you go.
But they would still be like, oh yeah, I was there. And like, it's hard to be on the job all the time. So then, like you said, you have to have that person, another high paying person,
right,
that is running that stuff and staying on top of it. And it's like, it just gets to this thing where it's
all levels. The thing about it is it's all levels. And when people go, I think a lot of times I see young people going in, it's like, I'm going to start my own business, whether that's internet, doing concrete, doing pools, whatever you want to call it. They all think that it's just an upward trajectory. Like, this is their graft on their thing. It's always going to be like this. It's like, man, you invest this much money and all of a sudden you're down here. It's like, now I got to go get more money. Yeah. How is that going to happen?
You look at these major corporations, right?
Yeah.
And they'll put out their books or whatever. I mean, I'm not really Googling corporate books, but you'll hear this company is $28 million in debt. This company is in debt. So business is very, it's tricky, right? And if you just go in it and you don't really know what you're doing, it can be really frustrating. It can be harmful. I am a strong proponent of entrepreneurship, but I don't feel that everybody is suited for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And I don't feel everybody is strong enough for entrepreneurship. There, like Scott said, how many people want to start a business and go 4 years without paying themselves? You know, not a whole lot of people want to do that.
No.
And
There's no sticker or no jacket you could wear and say, "Hey, I'm in business, but I haven't made
I'm
any
in business for
money."
myself and I don't pay myself. Yeah.
No, but because then you have to
That's no
keep
one's goal.
you have to keep the appearances up.
That's the biggest
yeah,
thing.
you
know what
have
I
to
mean?
still maintain the appearance of a
Yeah.
healthy company because
Yeah.
people aren't going to hire a
Yeah.
sickly company. They
Yeah.
want to know that you're going to be there to enforce the
You're solvent.
warranties and do all these things. And so, you know, as an entrepreneur, a lot of times you sacrifice.
Yeah.
You're the leader.
Yeah.
You take the hits.
Yeah.
Go ahead. If you're going to say something.
So my wife and I started a website business because that's what she did, and then I was going to school thinking I was going to get out of construction and just didn't care for it.
Yeah.
So we started it, and it's like it's not like this. You start a business, and all of a sudden people will come to you
Right.
for work. I mean, you get in the right places maybe, and so we get. When I joined the Lion's Den, that was probably one of the biggest things that helped me was being around people that are like constantly pushing and you know, I put out what I'm doing and they're like, oh, I'd love to work with you. And it's actually people that are good for it.
Right.
But you can't just expect to start a business and just be like, oh yeah, we're just successful.
You
all of a
can't- you
sudden.
It's a process.
Yeah, you can't read the book and then all of a sudden now you're a quote unquote whatever. You
Yeah.
know, you're not a concrete dog. You're not a pool guy. You're not a landscaper. You're not a car mechanic. It just doesn't.
But there's always more. Like you're always just looking for more. And part of my thing with this podcast is highlighting where you can make money and how you can be successful. But you don't have to run a business to do it either.
Right.
Because like I talk about business a lot just because a lot of the people I have on are self-employed. But you don't have to. And you can be happy. You can have a 9 to 5 job.
What's the cost of happiness?
Exactly?
I mean,
That's the question.
That's the whole thing.
And
I
what's
think
the
that
value of happiness?
exactly. That's where it goes to. It's like what's the cost of happiness?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people that don't have a house and these kids that run around with no shoes and have a stickball,
and
they got
they're-
smiles in their hair.
and they're happy.
They're happy.
And they're
It's,
happy.
you know, I know more people who drive Lamborghinis and Ferraris and have the big homes that are so unhappy that the car, it's not the car, it's not the girlfriend, it's not the house, it's not the pool, it's not the kids, it's not everything else. It's like when you lay your head down at night and you have someone that you're laying next to, if you're married, and you're laying there, it's like, is this person have my back? Like if everything goes to shit tomorrow, what's happening? Like, because that's going to affect my happiness. It's going to affect my bank account too.
I think the problem is that's hard.
What do you mean?
That's harder for people to see. It's easier to chase money and see a direct ROI from it than it is to invest in yourself and in your personal development and in your relationships. It's harder to see I put this in, I get this back.
So here's a different way of looking at it. It's like, okay, at the end of 40 years of your business, right? Okay, when your business is all done and everything else, you made some friends, you made some money, you made everything else. Now what do you have?
Yeah.
Like when you sit in that chair at the end of the night, like you've sold your company, you've sold everything. The kids are all grown up, they're all out of the house. Now what do you have? I mean, legitimately, people don't think about that. And we made a conscious effort, like when our kids were growing up, because we started seeing people like, you get that empty nest syndrome, and you hear it all the time. And then hold on a second, you hear it all the time. And what we started seeing is once there's a lot of marriages that end at 20 years. If you think about it, there's
25 years.
25 years. And what's that mean? It means that they've grown their 2 kids up, their 3 kids up.
Yeah.
The 18-year-old is now out of the house and it's like, I am out of here. I can't stand where I haven't loved my life at all. There's nothing been at. So I look at it as like, if you're going to put 30, 40 years into a company or a business or your own company, and when it's all said and done, what do you got? Like, what is it? Okay, you got $10 million in the bank. Cool. Now what?
Yeah. Does your family like you still?
Exactly.
Are your children
still-
talking to you?
yeah.
Are you still married? Are
Yeah.
you know? And here's another thing that people, you know, they start a business, they get so caught up in running and starting their business and building their business that the family suffers.
Yeah.
So let's say you get to the point where you've finally got your business where you want it, and your wife tells you she wants a divorce. And now 50% of everything you've worked your life for is gone.
Yeah.
Not only that, you're probably going to, highly likely, you're going to be paying her a check every month to support the kids or whatever.
Well, and that's kind of where.
And so sometimes I think it's skewed backwards. Like people are so focused on business where it should be establish your relationship. Make sure your relationship is strong.
Right.
Then move on to what you're going to do in your life and establish that.
What did you guys consciously do when you were all going through this to make the effort? I mean, is it weekly date night you were doing?
So-
Is it communicating with each other every day? I mean, I know I see you guys have board
There you go.
meetings.
Like we were talking about this,
So-
and I was saying like
Communication is a key to everything.
Yeah, that's
in
our
my
baseline
opinion.
with everything.
Yeah.
Like, but we, gosh, you said something.
Tell them about what you do with your cell phone
Okay,
when I was working.
so again, this is a process that you have to like consciously be aware of. Like, I consciously want. So we do our podcast, we do our coaching on relationships, and what you said is like we treat our marriage like a business, which sounds extremely cold and not warm and no affection or anything else. We've been married 37 years. We have board meetings. You mentioned board meeting. If I'm running a multi-million-dollar company, my employees have to know where I'm going. They have to know the vision of where my life is going, okay? If I'm married and I have a partner and I have a vision of where my life is going and she doesn't know, what's it going to happen?
Yeah.
I'm going to
Where's the
go
uncertainty
I'm going to
at?
go out this way. She's going to go the opposite way. So we have a board meeting and we set this up, gosh, probably 10 years ago. Longer than that. Yeah, while we were working. We come with a pad of paper and a pen. So there's rules in this. It's very interesting. It's
board
rules
meeting
in it.
rules.
Board meeting rules. One car, so you have to go in the same car. Okay. Public place, restaurant. So there's a couple of reasons for that. If you get pissed off at each other, start yelling at each other, you have one car. So you both have to go home together. Number two, you're not going to raise your voice and act like an idiot in front of in public.
Yeah,
in public.
So this kind of and I say that, I mean, we're pretty controlled, but like in the beginning, there can be some really heated stuff. And in our board meeting, it's like, okay, the kids, like, here's what the kids' schedule is this week. Here's my schedule. I'm not going to be home on Thursday until midnight. I have meetings all day long. I'm going to not do this. This is what's going to happen. This is what's expected. So on Thursday night, when I don't come home until 1 o'clock in the morning because my day has been like hell, I'm not going to sit here and come into a bed that is like, well, where the hell have you been? Have you been out drinking with the boys? It's like, and like legit, we have a yellow pad of paper and we're like, we write it down and it's like, hey, I told you, this is it. Yeah. So there's no argument. It's like, and we're going back onto it. So our vacations, are we needing, does your business need anything? We talk about business, we talk about personal, we talk about family. So we have those three converge together so that we together know what's going on. Like our ship is headed this way. I'm telling you that I'm making a hard left on Friday, so this is what's happening. Now, does that coincide with what you're doing anything on Friday? Well, no, I have this. Well, one of us is going to have to change it.
Yeah.
So now let's discuss. Then we bring that up. It's like, who's going to change their plan?
And I think board meetings are so much more important than date night.
Thank you.
So much more important than date night. I see people in
That's probably
relationships.
an unpopular opinion.
No, it's gonna be
Oh yeah,
terrible.
it's gonna be super unpopular. That's fine. I don't care.
Totally fine.
I've got 37 years. We're fine.
Yeah. I'll put your 2 years against my 37 anytime
I
you
see
want to.
couples that are struggling
Tell
so
me all
hard
about
in their
your- Tell me
relationship.
all about your fun sex and everything else. And I'll tell you, I've got 37 years under my belt. I know what makes her happy. She knows what makes me happy. And we have great sex. So cool. Let's have go.
So one night out a week is not going to salvage a marriage,
Yeah.
right? It's not. What's going to salvage a marriage is communication and listening. Those are the biggest keys. Everybody needs to feel heard. Everybody needs to be acknowledged. And so, they say women have 10,000 words a day and men have 5,000, whatever,
true.
And that might be true. But it's when people stop listening to each other that things start to deteriorate.
And communication, people really screw up communication. I say this, we say this on our podcast, we say this on when we're coaching people. It's like, ladies, men are a box of rocks. Like legitimately,
I don't say that. Scott says that.
I say that. I said, men are box of rocks. Tell us exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Like, don't beat around the bush. Like,
Don't hint.
Don't hint.
Don't
be anything.
allude.
Like, I'm not going to take offense if you say, hey, you look like crap in that, and I think you gained 10 pounds. Like, okay, cool. Now you're being honest with me. Now I know where your head's at with me.
Yeah.
Not that you say that, but I'm just saying.
That's a horrible analogy.
it's my
Gentlemen, don't use that analogy.
It's my. I know I was going to go with this somewhere else too, but it's just. Oh, communication people mess up on. Our thing is clear, concise, honest communication. Clear, be clear. Be concise. Be specific. Honest. 100% honest. And communicate. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is like when people say that we need to communicate, they just want to say everything. They don't want to listen. It's like, here's my problems. Mm-hmm. Here's my problems. Oh, you're doing this. My problem is this. My problem is this. Yet, if you're not listening, she can talk 10,000 words to 100,000 words. I can say the same thing. But if I don't listen, then communication is not there. Yeah. And that's why we have board meetings in our communication because we're very clear, concise, honest, and specific about what we need.
And then that carries over into your everyday relationship, right? Yeah. It establishes that communication. So I have no trouble waking up in the morning and say, hey, I am just out of sorts today. I'm pissed off. I don't know what I'm upset about, but I just need some space. And we call it space and grace. It's like, I'm not mad at you. We're good. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go off and pout.
Yeah, you wake up in the morning and you're just like, God, I'm just irritated. And then your wife is always, or your husband is going, well, what's wrong? What did I do? Yeah. How can I help you?
Exactly.
It's like,
so you tell him up front.
Alone. Yeah.
Like, not even leave me alone.
No.
Up front. I love you. We're good. I'm struggling with something. I need some space. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Now, he's not in his office thinking, what did I do? Why is she mad at me? It has nothing to do with him. I'm just irritated about something.
After 37 years, we tell people, it's like just find out what works for you. Yeah. Like, I'm good for us means that, hey, everything is fine. I'm just in a funk. It has nothing to do with you. It's all me. Yeah. And if I'm ready to talk about it, I'll be here to listen.
I imagine that scenario ruins a lot of relationships.
Yes.
Somebody being upset, the other person not knowing why, no communication. And the breakdown of communication there is what leads to more and more and more arguments when neither person is really upset at each other. They're just upset.
So you're walking into
you're walking into the next thing.
What I was just going to say, what you fight about is not what you're mad about. Yeah. Think about that. Stop for 1 second and think about this in your relationship. I would say 90% of the time, what you fight about is not what you're mad about because we let it boil up. We let it get going. You didn't feed the dog 2 weeks ago. Then you didn't take out the trash 5 days ago. And then you didn't take the kids to baseball practice 3 days ago. Then you didn't. Then you didn't take them out to dinner. Then all of a sudden,
blow up. And then
all of a sudden you didn't reload the toilet paper in the bathroom, and the whole world is apart. Like, I can't believe that you don't listen to me and you don't respect my pride. And then you're like going. People are sitting there going, "What the hell happened?"
Yeah,
and there's no toilet paper.
So even though now you're having a fight, the communication about what's actually is upsetting that person isn't coming out.
So what you fight
it's
about
just
is
anger.
not what you're mad about. So like we try and get, like, if I'm mad or if Anne's mad about something or just, whatever it is, it's like, here's the problem. You did this. I'm upset about this, blah, blah, blah. How do you want to handle it? And so when we say it like that and when we revert it back to being, we treat our marriage like a business, like a well-run business is a well-communicated business.
Yeah.
Very well. Like, the CEO knows what the president's doing. The president knows what the worker on the line is doing. Like, everybody
knows their roles and everybody knows their responsibilities.
My role is
and
X,
it's the
Y,
same
and
in a
Z.
marriage. Yeah.
I don't step on her toes. She doesn't step on my toes. That's it.
Yeah. And there's also a clear vision on where you're going and goals that you're working towards.
That's what your board meeting's for. Yeah. It's like, again, my ship, I want our ship to go this way. If you want it to go different, then let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing in a marriage, a successful marriage, is two people that are listening.
And that's communicating.
Yeah, that's communicating. So a lot of people get confused that communicating is all about talking. A lot of communication is about
I want to throw up on you.
Yeah.
Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to listen to you.
And what happens is when people feel like they're not being listened to, validated, or, acknowledged, they start to check out.
Yeah.
They start to check out, particularly women.
I was just going to say,
it's really dangerous to disregard women and not listen to what they're saying. Women do have a light switch. So if I'm going to my husband, I'm repeatedly telling him something over and over and over again, and nothing is changing. Yeah. He's not really listening to me. I've asked him to do something. He never does it. Things like that, right? And so there comes a point where I'm tired of being disrespected. I'm tired of not being listened to, and I'm starting to withdraw, right? And then there will come a point where that switch flips, and at that point, there's no coming back. You could buy me a new car. You can promise me the world. You could do all these things, but I've checked out now, and I'm not interested anymore. And other women will back me up on this.
Yeah.
Scott calls it the bitch switch, but it's a true thing. It's a thing where there comes a point where if I'm not feeling valued, I'm not feeling heard, I'm not.
I had the switch almost switched on me.
He did.
I mean, that's just it. I mean, so, you know, that's where a lot of things change, where it's like I saw the glaze in her eyes, like, okay, I'm done with them. He's just telling me a bunch of bullshit.
I'm done talking about this. I'm done bringing it to him. I'm over it.
This is not a good place.
Well, that's hard too, because most men want to fix things by making sure provided for, like with physical things.
Yeah.
And that's how men show their love.
Right.
Like most men.
Yeah. A lot of men. Yeah, I agree.
They show it by making the money. They show it by buying the stuff. They show it by providing for the family, making sure that there's a secure place.
Which is a huge expression of love, right?
But
it
there's a great book, and I'm sure the 5 love languages. Understand what your partner is. Like, you give me a gift, it doesn't do anything for me. You
it generally makes him feel awkward.
Yeah, makes me feel like, yeah. Touch and time. Like this, like we're always touching
affection,
each other.
a lot of affection.
And that fills me up. I know it hurt. Words of affirmation. I was in construction, guys. It's like, F you is good morning. Like, if you do your job, you get a paycheck.
At your business, not at my business.
If you do your job, you get a paycheck. If you don't, then I fire you. Like, I don't give a lot of attaboys. So that was a weird, hard thing for me to do, is to learn that.
Me too. And that's my wife too. She's words of affirmation. So
and it's tough. So it's a muscle we have to work at.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's so important. I love that book so much because it really kind of helps people to not waste their time on a category that the other partner's not even interested in, right?
Yeah.
And like, say Scott came home and said, I'm going to take you out dancing, I would be like, oh, crap. You know what I mean? So understanding what your partner's into or what fills their tank or whatever.
If I come home and say, hey, I really appreciate that you just washed the clothes today. I think that, thank you for
Thank you that every time I go to get a shirt, I have a clean shirt in my closet. And
we think that we, as guys, are sometimes, again, box of rocks. We don't know what we don't know. So it's like, read the book, ask your wife, talk to them.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
I think the other thing where people run into confusion or it creates a lot of problems is we don't see men for the emotional beings that they are. Yeah. And men are tender. Oh, God, of course, they're going to get through a podcast and get choked up.
We're 37 minutes in.
I think that's a record. And men's feelings need to be acknowledged and protected and respected. And I think that a lot of times we lose sight of that because we just think, oh, they're masculine, they don't care. And that's really true. Not true. I think we do men a disservice.
Yeah, I think the kick on where you're going with it is like, I can do a lot more. Us men can do a lot more if we have the support and permission from our wives, if that makes sense. Like, I know I can go kill a bear and bring it home and feed it to my family. But if I know my wife is behind me like 100%, I'll go kill the herd. You know what I mean? Like,
herd of bears.
Just shut up. I'll go above and beyond.
Yeah.
What we need to do. You know what I'm saying? I think
really true.
I think the thing is like, if I know for me, if I have a safe landing, and I say that a lot, it's like a safe landing when I come home, and my wife knows that she can count on me, and if I'm going to do everything I can to do what I need to do, like, women have a big part in our success.
Yeah. Well, that's
huge.
Especially in the construction thing, like, because construction is bad. Like it's a nasty thing. You're always you get the bad phone calls. So at 4:50 on your way home, you get someone just wrecked a truck in your construction site, and now all of a sudden your whole life gets turned upside down again. That happened to us multiple times. We just landed in Miami, Florida, getting ready to go on a trip and everything else, and find out that 4 guys totaled a truck with a trailer with the tractor in the back, all in the hospital. Like, now it's like, oh, like, that's the kind of stuff, being a blue collar and you owning your own business. Those are the things that you don't expect, but they're gonna happen. You know what I mean? So I think that knowing
that you have someone that you can bounce all that stuff off of,
and we were together, and that's the thing, we were together in there, and we were. I remember we were in the Breakers dining room at a bar, and we're looking at each other. And we're taking the call, and we're just like.
And I'm on the phone with my superintendent. I'm like, "Do I need to come home?"
Yeah, is anybody going to die?
No.
I mean, just those things.
So we didn't. But
that was kind of an off turn.
Yeah, you did. You kind of off on a tangent there. But I think it's so important. Like, everybody knows that women have feelings, right? Yeah. Men have feelings too, and society hasn't done us any favors by telling men to tamp down their feelings and not be expressive and all this crap, right? you should, if you can't be expressive in public, you should be able to be expressive at home.
Yep.
And you should be able to be yourself at home.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have to be putting on masks and faces and things when we're at home. It should be the place, it's our sanctuary.
That support is super important. So when you go, I mean, we've talked about this already, but like at any time you bring something up around your spouse, if they're not supportive, it's really hard to have any sort of motivation to go out and push yourself more.
Or be motivated to
Super
come
hard.
home.
Or be motivated to go home.
Right.
So you end up staying out, drinking with your buddies, going, doing whatever, and not being home, not being with your family. Or
And so
wife.
so now I'm gonna go back into date night as opposed to a board
Yeah.
meeting. It's like if my board meeting is on point, my date nights are gonna come no matter what, because there's not gonna be any arguments in a fight. And I say that and she'll tell me if I'm saying this right now, like tell me if we're not doing enough. But like we date each other all the time.
Yeah.
Like I think anytime we're together,
We flirt with each other. We grab ass. We do all that
we
stuff.
date.
Yeah.
Like it's 100% like I want to just be happy and fun.
Yeah.
And that's just it. And I think that there is a point when there's a point in your life when, and again, like I said, the money's great, but how much does happiness cost? Yeah. And dating is like anytime I go to, I can go to 7-Eleven, fill up my gas tank, and she's there, and that's the date for me.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about anything we want.
So we don't need to. It was different when the kids were at home.
Yeah.
Yes, we needed a specific night to get away from
Yeah.
the kids, right?
And we did
That's
do that.
And for that, I'm a big proponent of date night because you still have to be connecting with each other. And when kids are around, you're constantly distracted. It's always about the kids, and and that's because they're little and they need us. But I don't think that if you are hinging your whole marriage on the fact that we always do date night, that you're going to have a lot of success there.
So a problem I see with putting so much emphasis on date night is it puts so much emphasis on people doing something like big and grand for their date night
Right.
every time. It's like, oh, we have to have date night. We have to go out and do we have to go dancing.
Go up yourself.
Something,
Each
like-
week it has to be better and better and better.
I would rather dig a hole than go dancing, right? So grab a spade. We're going out to the garden. But, it's just sometimes I think that the whole date night thing is almost like another thing in our life that we're not hitting 100%.
Well, I think that,
You know what I mean? And it just makes us feel bad.
Yeah,
a lot of
it's-
times it's
yeah.
a check mark. It's a check the box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't want to check the box. I want to go have fun. Like, and we say this. That's kind of our mantra now. Last year was just say yes. So we say yes to everything. And this year is like
Within reason.
Yeah, pretty much. But now it's just like if it's not fun, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And that sounds so childish and so immature. But again, equate the money to the happiness. How much does happiness cost?
Yeah.
If I'm not happy and having fun, I can make another painting. I can go and get a job. I literally can go get a job right now wherever I want to.
Yeah.
If I wanted to go get a job, you know what I'm saying?
That was the case, yeah.
If that was the case, but that's not my goal.
Yeah.
My goal is to spend as much time as with her, have fun, build up what we've got going on. Our really calling right now, like legitimately, is to couples. Like we're
Huge.
We're pushing a lot of chips into our relationship stuff.
Do you have a lot of, so, I mean, since your coaching group is just relationships in general, how do you have a lot of people from very different backgrounds?
Yes,
As a matter of
very
fact, we
different
do.
backgrounds. And we have married people and single people.
Married and single.
We might
And
have people that are dating each
And
other in the
dating.
group,
Oh, wow.
or people that are just flat out single.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then we've got the married couples, and
We've got
and I love it because we're seeing growth.
Yeah.
We're seeing changes in people, and it's like wow.
It's so fulfilling, like the happiness and money thing, like the whole. It's really fulfilling to see a couple that's been married again that 20-year mark, and they're sitting off to the side, and they're on the call, and we're talking to them, and their hands are down to their side, and they're just waiting for their partner to not talk, and then they can talk, and it's like. And then we're like 7 weeks out, and they're on the beach, and they're just like
hanging
holding
on each
on each other,
other.
and they're like, "Hey guys,
Or
we're having a
she's
great
laying
time."
on him while they're
and
listening
it's
to
just
the
like,
call,
and we're like looking
it's
at them like,
just
"What
awesome.
happened to you guys?" He's like, "Well, we did this little thing, this little tweak that she's told us, and we did in this," and I'm like, "That's like." And we tell everybody like, you don't have to follow our blueprint. Like, I'm good is what we use. Like whatever words you use. And here's another one too. And it's the stupidest one. It's like, just cues with your partner. It's like if I'm standing in the house and I lift my shirt up and my stomach is showing, like that's a cue that I need a hug from you. So she'll lift her shirt up, and now we
just
hug.
rub bellies. Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those things. And when you talk about that, people go, "No, that's kind of stupid." It's like, you know what? We've been married 37 years. I don't really care if you think it's stupid. It works for us.
Yeah, for
it
us.
works for
and
us.
find
Well, that
your
may
own
be
little
stupid to
thing.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That
So
may be a story you're telling yourself about about how it should be.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think that's the thing, and being here talking with you, it's like, especially on the the contractors and the blue collar stuff, it's like you guys are a team. I don't care if your wife or your husband doesn't do what you do and you're in the construction space. You guys are a freaking team, and you have to know what each other's doing. And if it comes down to don't call it a board meeting, call it a date night meeting, call it whatever you want. But man, you guys have to be on the same page. You have to know what's going on with the other person.
Because your business directly impacts everything that relates to your family.
What are some of the biggest problems you've seen in people's relationships that are just like pretty easily fixable? But like, I mean, do you have people that are, from the blue collar space where like, say the guy is very tired after work and it upsets his wife? Like what does that translate to? Like, what are the problems there that are like underlying?
Everything is going to go back to communication, right?
Communication,
So if I understand that my husband's coming home from a long day and he's going to be tired, this is something I used to do with our kids. And we lived in Las Vegas, right? So he would come in, it was boiling hot outside. Yeah. He's sweaty, he's hot, he's tired. And I would just tell the kids, give your dad 15 minutes, let him get in the house, take a shower, get comfortable. And then if you need to talk to your dad,
and I didn't
talk to
know
your
this for the longest time, but because you know how us guys, you just get at the end of the day, you're like everything, and it's like, I got to go home.
I
got to go home to
chaos.
three kids, and my wife is probably gonna be pissed off, and I've got to do this and everything else. And it's like, and I'd walk in the house, and it would be quiet. Like, you don't know what a golden that is. I mean, for all of us out there that have had this happen, and you got kids at home and running around and everything else, like, I would walk in the house, and it would be quiet, and I would say, hey, I'm gonna go and take a shower.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. And it's like I
you
literally had
a drink. Yeah.
I had 15 minutes of just decompressing. Go to the bathroom, go take a shower, go get cleaned off, clear your head, and then I can present myself good.
Most of the time for me, like if I have a long day or it's hot or whatever, and I'm just not in a very good mood, it's literally just the 15-minute reset, shower, whatever, that makes all the difference. I mean, I try to do when I get home on my drive, make intentional to try to like be in a better mood, but it doesn't always help. But it's that reset. So I can see how so many people would get upset at that. Like you don't walk through the door and you're not like this bundle of happiness.
Or you walk in and your wife goes, "Here's the kid." You're like, "Wait a second."
Wait,
like,
give me just 10 minutes.
Just give me 5 minutes. And understand, your wife is, she's done her 10 hours at home with the kids. I understand all that, but I mean, and this was, and Ann was still working at the time too. So it was one of those things where we really just kind of, hey, just read the room. Read the room.
Yeah, read the room.
If your husband or your wife comes in, it's like, hey, you just want 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Go take it.
So your husband's out there working all day, right?
Yeah.
How counterproductive is it to greet him at the door with a big problem?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let him just have that 15, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever you need, right?
This is going to get all your guys that are listening to this to say, hey, honey, you got to listen to this podcast. I'm telling you right now, this is helping. Good, go, girl.
But we're the support staff at home, right? So it's important that he comes home to something peaceful. I would always turn down the air conditioning, fix him a drink or whatever. I'm not necessarily talking about alcohol, just something, and let him go do his thing. And so it's also my responsibility to get him going in the morning, right? I would pack him a lunch, get him all set, and I'd make the coffee, whatever, and just send him out on a positive note, bring him home on a positive note, so that he's not associating home with conflict.
Yeah.
And the kick on that is
he's going to want to come home at the end of the day.
And the kick on that is when the roles were reversed, I did the exact same thing.
Yeah, he did that for me.
I would do, so now she's working because, like I said, I sold my business and then I went into real estate and investing and all kinds of other stuff, and then art. So I would have the same thing. It was just like, but then our kids are a little bit older, so I would just make the runway good for your spouse when they come home. Like turn the lights on, make sure that the driveway's clear so they can have a good place to park. Like it's the littlest.
Make sure
thing.
you're not still in your pajamas. At the end of the day.
Yeah, it's the littlest.
Look
thing.
good for your spouse when they're coming home. Yeah. It's just little stuff. It sounds so archaic, but it works.
Yeah.
Well, I think
we've lost sight of what really we've lost sight of being family in the United States to a large degree. You know, you've got the wife is working, the dad is working, everybody's exhausted at the end of the day and stressed out, right? And so for those years when I was able to be home, I realized it was a privilege to be home. I was grateful to be home, and I wanted to be useful to my husband in that I made his life as easy as possible.
And for us, the way we found the easiest way that we could connect and decompress and know what each other's doing is, like I said, going back to the board meeting. Like a date is great. You can spend 3 hours, 4 hours on a date, 6 hours.
But what if 2 hours of that date is a movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So our board meetings are legitimately, they've gotten way shorter time, but like an hour maybe. Yeah. And now we're eating. And we'd always do it at breakfast time because it's the first thing in the morning. So we'd have breakfast.
Yeah, we'll go out to breakfast.
We'd go out to breakfast and do the thing, and then now we're setting up our week. You know, it's like we always, you know, you say you want to set your week up for success and everything else. Well, we're setting ours up on Saturday and Sunday for the next week because I know now, I understand that things can change, but I know what she's doing. She knows what I'm doing, and there's no real questions.
Does the board meeting ever feel like you're checking a box doing it, or is it because it's so intentional of a thing that it's not?
It's intentional.
Yeah.
I've never felt like I was checking a box. I'm sure some of the people that we coach probably the first couple times feel like, okay, I'm doing my homework.
Yeah, I'm just got to do this.
Right, I have to do this. Yeah, because otherwise they're going to call me out.
But the thing is like, it's like, where do you want your life to go? Like how much difficulty do you want to deal with? Like I don't want to come home on Wednesday late at night and not having to talk to my wife and she doesn't know where I'm at. It's like, she already does. She knew 5 days ago what I was doing.
Here's something that Scott used to do when we were both working. You were going to touch on it earlier, and you went off on a tangent.
Here's the thing. So my big thing, and this is, if you guys are out there listening, like, you know, as a contractor, you know, as a business guy, you always have text messages. You always have phone calls.
Constantly on the phone.
So for my thing is like legitimately, when I picked up my phone, if my wife wasn't in my text messages, I texted her, "Hey babe, just thinking about you." Mm-hmm. Like. You look at your phone. These things
all the time.
Yeah. We're always on it.
And
connected to our phones.
And if you look on here, I mean, is she on there? Whitey. That's her.
Whitey.
That's her name. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say that's her. That's me. So she's on my page, and I don't work right now. But that's just something that's like, again, that's the way that I can stay connected. So I'm dating my wife all day long. I'm saying, "Hey babe, how's your day going?"
Yeah,
it's going like crap. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm feeling the temperature of when I'm going to come home. Like, then the wives can do this with the husbands too. And then again, it's a little bit harder because as us working, we can't get back to them right away. But I knew if I had a break, I'm going to my next job. "Hey babe, day's almost done. How's your day going?" Nothing like that. It's going good. Kids are doing this. So it's like I'm connected. So when I get home, I don't have 10 hours to make up. It's like, well, what did you do at 10 o'clock in the morning? What did you do what did you do at lunch? It's like, hey, I'm going to lunch. Hey, I'm going to go out to lunch with my friend too. It's like, okay, cool. So I already know what's going on. I'm staying connected.
Imagine how often people are tied to their phones and are not in contact with.
Right.
Hey, if you're thinking that you're too macho that you can't reach out and touch your wife, I mean, then guess what? When you get home, you're not going to be able to touch your wife. I mean, let's just be realistic about that. I mean, and it's no big deal. Like if I'm in my truck all by myself, no one's not. If you're embarrassed to not show the boys that you're texting your wife, you got a bigger problem than texting your wife. But I'm just saying, I didn't care. It's like I pull up my phone. My phone's on there. I'm making a text to the next job or something else. It's like, hey, I don't see her on there. Hey, babe, just thinking about you. Whether I'm thinking about it or not, I have my phone and making her feel special. That's it.
Yeah. Works for me.
People get tied to their phones all the time, and then the social media thing at like the end of the day is like I've had to lately when I get home, I usually because I do a lot of stuff on my phone, and I'm sure you guys do as well. Like I feel like everything I do is on my phone, and I mean I'm learning Spanish, and that's on my phone, and so I'm always like tied to it, doing stuff, playing like. Recently, we started playing Words with Friends with everybody.
Oh, that's so
cool.
Fun. Yeah.
Everybody's doing it, and it feels a little weird being tied to my phone. But I mean, we're playing with family and stuff. So
sure.
But I have to make a conscious effort at the end of the day to put it away because I get home and it's so easy to just get sucked into it and not be present and not be talking to people. And I have a problem with it if it's there. Like you just get sucked into it.
And, I have a problem with it too. Yeah.
And
I do too.
That's just something that I like lately I started to do. And I noticed a difference. It's a lot easier to be connected. But like how much we're tied to the phones. It's like I like that idea of always being in contact, and then like at the end of the day though, like having to set a time, whether it's whether you go to bed at 10 and you put it away at 8 or something, like whatever it is, so that you're just there.
Yeah, so you're present.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference for us now, is like, because we are more with the coaching space, with my art and stuff like that. It's like that's
always
our business kind of now. But and then she's got her prepping thing. So we still are. I think we started talking about it before that we push play, but there's just a lot going on.
Yeah,
a lot going on,
and that adds to that stress level too, because people are on there just seeing bad things everywhere and tied to their phones on the social media, and it's like always this stress.
Right, we're being fed
and
stress.
you're
Right?
fed.
We're intentionally being fed stress because they want us to be stressed out. Because the very act of being stressed out is kind of it bogs you down.
Yeah.
Right, and you can't think straight. You can't get your stuff done straight because you're so stressed out. When we went through the recession in Las Vegas,
2008.
In 2008, it was like a light switch went off. It was crazy. Like everything just stopped. It was insane. And Vegas was one of the hardest hit places in the country because our property values had gone up so quickly, so fast. And so when the interest rates adjusted, people were losing their houses left and right. And being in construction, primarily residential construction, you take a huge hit, right?
Yeah.
It was about that time that we moved out of the country club. And where was I going with this?
No clue.
Me either.
I was jumping
Stress.
on the
Stress. Thank you. So you have to eliminate those things from your life. At that point, we eliminated the newspaper, the news. We quit watching it because it was so depressing, and it was causing us undue stress. Whether we watch the news or don't watch the news, it's not going to change what's happening, right?
Yeah.
But it will change in our lives. And so I think it's important that we...
The thing about this stupid little black box that we keep in our pocket is like it's a highlight reel for all people. People will show you the best things. Again, their new car, their new everything, their date night. It's like, hey, babe, how are we? Let's do a date night. Oh, cutie picture. Meanwhile, it's like, I can't stand that woman. I can't stand him. I can't stand. You know what I mean? It's like
so sad.
Which again puts more stress on. It's like, well, my gosh, I'm following what they're doing, and they're so happy and everything else. It's like, man, behind closed doors, it's not. It's not all what it is. I mean, that's plain and simple.
Well, it's not what people are posting on social media.
No, I mean, I think we post good, bad, and indifferent. I don't really care. It's like
I've been posting a lot, and my wife is probably maybe a little upset that I don't post as much about her, but I'm not trying to like show off our relationship as like this.
Right.
Because I know so many people, and I've seen so many people that do that, and then they're divorced within like and it's like, holy crap. How can you be over here acting like you have the perfect relationship, and then you end it?
The thing about that is, it's like there is so much of that, which is, and it's disgusting for the simple fact that like it's just a fraud and a lie. You know, if you're gonna come out here and tell me that this is good and this is how I do it and everything else, then practice it. You know, here's what I tell people too. It's like, I'll give you all the ammunition to come back at me. To like what I had a drug addict kid. Yeah. Am I bad?
We did.
Yep, we did. Have we talked about divorce a long time ago? Yeah, we sure did. Did we separate? Absolutely. Did we do? So I'll give you all the bad stuff about
but
me.
We separated.
This is what
35 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, exactly.
It's not like it's a current thing, but
what I'm saying is like, I think you have to get comfortable in the fact, again, what's the price of happiness? The price of happiness, to me, is I don't care what you know about me, because there's nothing you're going to tell me about me that's going to shock and awe me, or all of a sudden you're going to tell someone that doesn't know me. It's like, and they ask me, yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, I did that. I don't care.
Well, posting on social media, I think this is something that helps with, because if you actually post your life and post videos of you talking and all of that, like you get used to being uncomfortable, and you get to a point where you just don't care what people say.
right.
I think that is a very good thing about social media, and I tell people all the time to do that. And like, obviously that's something that, the video challenges and stuff that everybody is doing right now. It's like, that's part of what you have to get to, and maybe maybe that's not what you do to get to that point, but you just have to get to a point where you don't care what people say about you. Like, you're not basing your value off of
Can I tell you that the biggest freedom of getting older is not giving one crap what people think about you anymore. When you're younger, you worry about all that stuff. You worry about appearances. You worry about what people think. It doesn't matter what other people think about what you're doing. As long as you're not hurting somebody else and you're being true to yourself, it doesn't matter what they think.
What's the price of happiness?
What is the price of
Yeah.
I mean, legitimately,
Exactly.
again, I'm happy if you know everything. I could, because that eliminates
Within
anything.
reason.
Yeah.
I kind of differ with Scott in that because I don't think everybody in the world needs to know what we're doing or what we're about or what our plans are. I'm a little more close to the vest.
She is.
But at the end of the day, what other people think has no bearing on your life.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And people will offer their opinions. That's fine. Offer your opinion. I'll accept it or disregard it. It's okay. You know, I'm not going to be rude to you about it, but I don't really care what other people think about what we're doing.
No.
Within reason. You know, there are people in my life, their opinions matter greatly to me. But there's only a few.
Well, so you guys have gotten into some different things though recently. So, I mean, not only the relationship coaching, but painting and prepping.
Yep.
How'd you guys get that different and going in that much of a direction? And I don't know if we care about going much longer, but like, you know, anyways.
Chop it up. Go ahead.
So,
I think when you're in a happy, secure relationship, you're fully
whatever.
open to be an individual also.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're together almost 24/7. And I have no interest in painting.
yeah.
Scott doesn't have a lot of interest in prepping. You know,
Yeah.
and we have our own little things that we do, but we still support each other in those things. And
Has that always been an
fun.
interest for the both of you, or just something
So I'll let
that's
her tell you
developed
about prepping.
recently?
So she went
prepping, I
in
went deep into
Obama.
prepping during the Obama administration.
Yeah.
And now even more so as I see the way that things are going, I think it's extremely crucial that people be responsible to have what they need on hand.
Yeah.
And I understand that everybody's struggling with, not everybody, but there are people that are struggling with the economy and all that stuff. I mean, it's affected us also. And if I had to be locked in my house for 3 months, 6 months, we're covered.
Yeah.
There's really nothing that we would have to leave the house for that I can think of off the top of my head.
And I think the thing that we just want to like, it comes down to like helping people with relationship and everything else. Like just a calling is like just get your house in order. You know, the big thing, get your house
It's part
in
of
order.
getting
And
your
she's-
house in order. Yeah.
She's been doing it for 16 years, 15 years, something like that. And again, we've got accumulation of a lot of stuff, but that's me supporting her doing it. I can't stand it. I like legitimately.
Yeah,
It
he
drives
gets so
me
tired of it.
So crazy. It's
And I've
just like-
calmed down a lot. I
and
mean,
she
now
has.
I'm telling more
She
people
has.
about it and not getting
Yeah.
so crazy at home. But the painting was such an awesome thing to watch come down because he went to a client's house and he owed him a bunch of money. He gave it. He paid Scott, and Scott went and bought art supplies. And all of a sudden, my husband's setting up an art studio in our bedroom. Like we had a bedroom, and then there was a sitting room outside the bedroom. And I'm like, well, this is interesting, but it was awesome because he just took it and ran with it.
I've never heard your side of it. Like I've never, like that's the first time when she started talking about pain. I'm like, okay, let me listen to how.
Well, it was interesting because
it's
here's
cool.
this man that never picked up, a popsicle stick to do a craft in his life, and now he's painting paintings, and I'm just like, and I loved his paintings.
Yeah.
Like I don't love every single painting, but for the most part, I love all his paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it came,
Every once in a while, I'll be like, nah, I don't like that one.
Yeah, so the painting came from like when we found out that my son was an addict, a heroin addict, and like I told you, where I was doing art and where I wanted to just end it all, and I saw my wife and my daughter in the across the way smiling. He owed me money. I went into his house, and it just we did a lot of this. We did eBay like when eBay was just beginning and started
Oh my
selling
gosh,
stuff.
yeah, we used to
so
sell
we
everything. It was
used
so
to sell
fun.
like a lot of art glass and stuff. So I like art in that sense. So I walked into his house and he had this art that was just like, it took my breath away. It was just like, holy mackerel, this stuff is amazingly beautiful, right? And I told him, I said, where can I buy some of this? Like, I really want. He goes, I do it. I'm like. And he was the attorney general for Nevada. Like
Or
he
running
was
for attorney
or
general,
running,
one
he
of
was
them,
like
yeah.
he was a bigwig, And he goes, this is the only thing that calms my brain. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, it with so much stress that I have going on. He goes, I can just come here and do what I want. And it was like a light switch that went off. I'm like, I got a heroin kid. I'm living in the country club. I'm trying to keep up the image. I'm trying to make sure that we're making more money. And the happiness and money. I was going on for the money rather than the happiness. And I'm looking at this guy, with all the stress and stuff, and I'm like, I want to start painting. I'm going to just do that. So I legitimately, I cashed the check. I went to some art supply place. I didn't know a paintbrush I didn't know anything. I literally probably spent about $4,000 just on stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was, right? And so I just started painting. And like when I would go crazy, I would just say, hey, I would just excuse myself and just start painting. And then the paintings were starting to stack up, and she goes, I like some of this stuff. So we'd start hanging it in the walls. I'd go golfing during the day, and then guys would come over and goes, hey man, that's a new painting. That's pretty cool. So I'd take it off the wall and I'd give it to them.
Oh my God,
because I'm like, I don't care. It's just something I did, It's like, and she goes, no, you can't do that. You can't keep giving that away. I'm like, okay. So she goes, promise me that you'll do an art show. I'm like, I am not going to stand and be an art dude and do my art is full of feelings and emotion. I'm like,
anyway, so at the art show.
So at the art show, I sold like 11 pieces and got 3 commissions. I'm like,
Wow.
I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm like, there's money in this. I can possibly make some money doing this, And it wasn't a lot of money in the beginning. I've been doing it since 2002. At my first painting I sold for $75, and I just kept going and kept going and kept going. And then, thankfully with the social media that comes around, and then you start getting seen, and then you start going out there. And then I started, something I wanted to do is help other people make money doing art. So I did that, and so now again we just try and help people as much as we can.
People.
We really have a burden
you
to help. Not a burden, but I think we have a calling.
Yeah,
to help people.
It's that purpose,
Yeah.
You found your purpose in helping people, and I think that's a lot of people's purpose and it's a good purpose, because there's a lot of people that are where you used to be that you can reach and touch and help.
There's not. That's the funny thing too. Is like there's so many people, like what you're going through isn't unique. Like it's not. You're not special. You're not the only one that's failed at it. You're not the only superstar at it. I mean, we can go.
And it's not forever.
It's not forever.
We all go through seasons.
Yes.
Right. And seasons don't last forever.
Yeah.
So
there's good times. There's bad times. There's highs. There's lows. There's celebrate the good and. Try and not
and learn from the bad.
And try not beat
bad
yourself
things
up
always
too much.
have a lesson, and I think we get so caught up in like, why is this horrible thing happening to me? Don't squander the lesson. Yeah. Like, get what you're supposed to get out of it, so you can get away from it.
I've heard a lot of people lately talking about being grateful in those scenarios, and whatever happens, just saying thank you and moving on with it. Because at the end of the day, what is being unhappy about anything that happens gonna do?
Nothing.
Something that I know a lot of people do, but I get caught up in being upset, like, man, this didn't go right or whatever. But instead of doing that, just be grateful that it's happening, and you can grow, you can learn, and maybe you can help someone else in this scenario.
100%. I agree with that.
Yep. Yeah. I think, like even going through having a drug-addicted child, that was something we never anticipated was going to happen in our family. And it did happen. But I was able to help other people through that, help other moms that have dealt with it. And I didn't go into coaching moms or any of that kind of stuff, but just helping people here and there, because people would come to us and say, hey, this is what we're dealing with. And I would be like, okay,
and
well, this is what we were told to do. We didn't do it, and I wish we had. And so I would tell you.
And this is kind of like the marriage space where we're in. It's like we just see so many people that we love and think that they're great people and stuff. And then you just, we all have there's a lot of stuff that happens behind closed doors. You all know that. Once you go inside your house, there's crap that comes on. But we just hear it, and we'd say, it's like, and we'd look at each other like, that's simple. Like, that's so easy to fix. Like, legitimately super easy. Why don't we just...
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that we have to take a course or read a manual to drive a car, right? We have to learn directions or learn things with our jobs. We have to do all these things. But you just throw a wing on somebody and tell them have a happy life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And nobody teaches people how to be married.
Yeah.
Conversely, nobody teaches us how to be parents.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that the things that are supposed to be so natural to us are so complicated.
And the things that, and both those things...
But yet there's nobody out there teaching us what to do.
And both those things are probably the most important thing in the longevity of your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Those will be the things that you look back at the end of your life, not, oh, I'm really glad I scored that job. It'll be...
Or if you go through an unhappy marriage, again, you live 25 years with your spouse and you're unhappy the whole time, the kids move out, you're like, oh, freedom, and you're 50 years old, and you're like, well, gosh,
and now you're going to split everything down the middle.
Yeah, the 20-year-old girl really isn't going to like me because I'm an old man, and I'm not going to be, you know what I mean? It's like, you start thinking about this stuff, it's like, wow.
I think sometimes our priorities are screwed up.
Yeah.
Like our first priority, well, in my opinion, it should be our relationship with God. And then family and marriage.
Are you gonna cry?
No, I divided it.
You caught yourself.
I was on the verge.
You caught yourself.
I can see it.
I know. I
Oh,
heard
look
her
how
voice.
crap! Here it comes.
We're
But
Yeah.
rambling.
yeah,
well,
we are.
well, you get all of that squared away, and the money comes. You know what I mean? Like that's just a byproduct, and that's probably the biggest thing I've noticed since I started coming into this space is that comes after everything else is squared away instead of the other way around.
Right.
Being happy, you can make a lot more money. I'm telling you can make a lot more money being
Yeah.
happy.
Doing anything.
Doing anything.
Yeah,
Doing
exactly.
anything.
Because
being happy
when
in your
you're-
marriage, it's going to be better. Being
Think
happy
of
with
how
your
much
kids.
mind space is taken up when you're not getting along
Yeah.
with your spouse,
Yeah.
right? It's just all you think about all day.
hurts.
You're going through the motions, but in your mind, you're
Yeah.
going through that. And if you can alleviate that, and everybody's getting along, it gives you more room for creativity, for accomplishment, all those things.
It gets in your way of accomplishing tasks at your work, learning things at your work. You're more angry and quick to anger with people. It's
We just call it the bandwidth. It's like I don't have bandwidth for this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be mad right now. So I'm gonna eliminate that madness and put some happiness or do something, plan it different. You have to. That's just what our little tricks. Again, it's like we don't have it mastered, but we have it mastered for us. And the way we have it mastered for us is we communicate honestly and specifically, like exactly what it is. I want sex. Okay, let's go have sex. Like there's no. It's the funniest because it's one of those things where people are like real shy about it. It's like the more intimate and the more honest you can be with your partner. I mean, that's just this. It's the stupidest thing that you sit there and go, well, I'm mad at my husband or I'm mad at my wife because she doesn't have sex with me. Did you ask?
Yeah.
It's like, well, why should I have
Why should I
Yeah.
have to
Should
ask?
just expect
like, and
it.
that was
Well,
a
why
big
should
thing
she
with
have to
us.
read your mind?
Yeah. It's like, no, I want this way at this time over there. Cool. Well, that's not. People go, well, that's just not sexy or that's not intimate. Bullshit. Like I know where I'm going.
It's
Like,
efficient.
it's efficient. Everyone gets what they want.
Stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Stories.
Exactly.
Stories you tell.
Yeah, we have a good time. We've been very blessed.
Very blessed.
What's the price of happiness? I think that's gonna be the title of this.
There you go.
I mean,
Price of
yeah,
happiness.
what is it? I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I can honestly, I mean, again, we can run a million hours on this, but and I think what happens too is you get older, you have all these stories, and I feel like that's what I'm feeling like in that age when you got that old man that has all the stories.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, you can mention anything, and the guy talks about it because. I've said yes to a lot of stuff, and I just continue to do it. It's like there was a time where we lost 9 figures, overnight. Done. And I was just devastated. Like, oh my gosh. There's that happiness versus money. I was just chasing for 3 years that 9 figures.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we're hitting it. We're there. And then overnight it was gone.
I think we get caught up in thinking that if we hit a certain number or we have this much income, that everything else is going to fall in place.
Yeah.
Everything else needs to be in place before you hit those
you get
numbers,
that,
right? And because money doesn't buy happiness.
Yeah.
Money buys stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff doesn't bring happiness. It brings a little happiness and excitement for. I had a friend that used to say 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's what Bedrosian, and I think that's his name, Bedrosian. He just did a podcast. He's like the womanizer, and he's got all this money, and that's what he just said. He goes, $350 million in my bank. He goes, nothing makes me happy anymore.
Yeah.
He goes, what makes me happy is surfing and being with my friends and being happy that way. He goes, I bought a Ferrari, and he goes, 48 hours later, he goes, I put 100 miles on it, and then I sold it. It's like one of those things where it's like you think that these thresholds. I'm going to move into the country club. I'm going to be able to golf 4 days a week. I'm going to have all this fun. Mike Tyson's my neighbor. I'm going to do all this, and you sit there and you just go. Who cares?
That's always.
But when you open, but when you opened my door in the country club, I had a drug addicted kid. Me and my wife were getting in fights. Everything was spinning. Her business was going crazy. My business was going crazy. It's like we just didn't have any of this.
Yeah.
And it just was like, okay, cool.
And it's kind of sad because I think a lot of people get to the point like the man that you were just talking about, and they've got everything. They've got the money in the bank. They've got all this stuff, and that's not what's bringing them happiness.
No.
So you've spent all these years, all these relationships.
Yeah.
What have you given up to get to that successful point, only to find out that that's not where the happiness is?
That's always my problem with pushing people to go to school just because because you're going to make all this money there, and you get this that's people's purpose, and they go through school, they have all that debt, they go get a job, they're stuck in their job, but they're making money, they're doing all that. That's they spend so much time learning and training and doing all this for money, but you don't spend that money and time and learning on your relationships. You're not doing that. And it's like, what do you have? What do you have at the end of the day?
Here's a perfect example that like it's really interesting. I keep saying interesting in weird words, but whatever. Have you ever seen Richie Rich, the movie, or the? If you haven't, like I would. This is like a thing. So Richie Rich, he's got all the money. Like his family has all the money. He's got everything, like helicopters, planes. And then he's a little kid. He's got everything, but his parents do. And they go into a mountain where the safe is, and the kid's thinking that like this is where all
Mount
the
Rushmore.
Is it Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, I think it's Mount Rushmore.
So it's where he's like the kid's thinking, and I hope I'm doing the story right, but he goes in there. And he's like, okay, well, he's thinking he's got all this money. He lives in a mansion, his butlers, everything else, and his dad goes and takes him into the safe. And what the most meaningful things is like baby pictures, like his first step, a picture of his first step, and sentimental things. And I actually have this in my safe, which is going to make me get teared up too. Like legitimately, like we have money in the safe, we have guns, we have jewelry, we have all this stuff in the safe, but there's this one box that's in the safe that I have. It's got my kid's first haircut. It's got my daughter's first binky that she used, and it's got her rattler, like her little toy when she was a kid. It's like, burn the safe, just give me that box.
Yeah.
Like that's all. That's the only box that I want out of that safe. Like legitimately, like there's pictures. I've got the little buttons, like the little buttons when your kids are in baseball and soccer and stuff. Take the first day of picture, and I don't know if they do it anymore. But then as a parent, you wear that button. That's my son out on the field, right? I've got a box that all that stuff is in there. I've got my kids' hospital bands when they're infants.
Yeah.
Like my kids are 37 years old. Like that's the stuff that means the most to me. Like all the other stuff is cool. I can make all that other stuff, but I can't get my daughter's first binky back. I can't get their rattles back. Their first haircut. Like so. I mean, what's the cost of happiness? Like I'm happy because I got that.
We touched earlier on.
That's you got all my feels there. That's it. No more.
We touched earlier on how as you get older you don't care what people think, and I think some of these people that are so hung up on success and they want the Ferrari or the Lamborghini and they want the big house and they want this and that is because they still care what other people think. Are you impressing yourself or are you impressing other people? And really, are you going to devote your whole life to accumulating a bunch of crap to impress other people? They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. And I think a lot of these people, and I'm not against success. I'm all about success. But I think a lot of these people are motivated by the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so when they
Seeing
reach
success
that
is the wrong
pinnacle,
thing.
like the guy that has $350 million and bought a Ferrari and drove it 100 miles, they're understanding that now.
Yeah.
Like they did all this stuff. They're at the pinnacle of their lives. And this guy's happy to hang out with his friends. To me, that indicates he doesn't have a significant other. And it's like, and so he probably doesn't have a family. Yeah. And it's sad. It's sad because these people are chasing after something that ultimately is not going to give them satisfaction at all. Because I don't care if someone comes into my house and is like, wow, I love your house. It's like, it's nice to hear, but that's not what I lived my life for. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Right. Oh, I love your car. Oh, thanks. It's just a car. You know what I mean? So.
Well,
turn it towards you, honey.
I think that's probably a good place to
wherever you
call
want.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
my feels.
what's coming for you guys up next? I mean, you got your painting, got prepping, kind of what's.
We're going in hard on the marriage space. I think.
We're going really hard.
Yeah, we've got a group. It's called Resolutions. It's a coaching group, and then we've got our podcast, Thou Shalt Not Kill, a podcast on marriage.
Yeah, resolutionsmarriagegroup.com is where you can see all the stuff that's on there. And then semperprada.com is with her thing, and then Scott Travis Art. I mean,
we got websites coming out.
I know we got websites coming out. That's why, the phone is so important to us and the computer and all that other stuff. But like, honestly, I don't think we hawk and we push it. It's like we hope people find us, and hopefully you'll find that we can offer something.
Yeah.
That's what it comes back to. Help you find
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of value in coming to somebody that's been through a lot of stuff. Yeah. So.
Like I said, I feel like the old man that can tell you a story about anything you start talking about. It's so crazy.
We always joke about the old guy that's walking by the job site that is like,
Yep.
oh, I used to do concrete back in the...
Why are you doing it like that? We didn't do it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
We had a guy that was an engineer for 40 years or whatever telling us we were doing stuff wrong.
Exactly.
He was a neighbor of the place we were
geez.
at, and he was just, you're doing that wrong. And we're like, okay. Okay, guy.
I had a client one time call me and tell me, you just laid my sidewalk and you didn't put down rebar. I go, yeah, we don't have to put down rebar.
No,
We're in Las
you
Vegas.
don't need
And
to
she's
put down
like,
rebar.
Yes,
no, you do have to put rebar. I've built houses for years and you have to have rebar. I go, why don't you call the city
Yeah.
and see what the building department
If they
says.
said we need
Yeah.
to, we'll come rip it out and put it in.
And she calls and
gosh.
apologizes. I'm like, we could have avoided that whole thing.
So anyway, that's us. That's us in a
It
nutshell.
was awesome. Thanks for
Thanks for
Probably
having
talk
us.
for another 17
Yeah,
hours.
let's go before
Yeah.
we make his
Exactly.
ears bleed.
thanks
Yeah.
for coming on, and thanks for
Thanks for
coming,
having
Ann.
us.
I
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
She's the star, not me.
No,
Yeah.
that's not
She's
true.
I had actually forgotten that you ran a construction company. Otherwise, I would have specifically asked, but I don't know
Yeah.
why.
No,
but
it's okay.
yeah, awesome.
Good girl. So thanks
You're
for having
good.
us, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Thank
it.
Yeah,
you.
we
All the
appreciate it.
time.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's
Yeah,
really
it was
fun.
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
We done.
Cut.
Yeah.
Sorry if we kept rambling.
That was.
Was that
See,
too-
you know, that just ends up. Oh, you're good. Sometimes they just end up going.